there's so many notes that didn't make the cut on this.
He gave her a golden shower, and boom, we have Perseus. Jesus, Hubert, Christ. So nobody thought to start at the beginning.
Nope.
No.
No, they all jumped in
That
like
would've made
3/4 of the way
too
through the
much
story.
What if God was one of us? Just a stranger on the bus trying to make his way home? Okay, maybe not like one of us, but definitely like the other pagan gods. Let's jump right back into it.
Don't adjust your settings. You are right where you need to be. Pull the curtains. Lock the doors. They can't know. They don't want you knowing. So pull up a chair and prepare. The Conclave is now in session.
So the Canaanite religion, like I said, they were polytheistic, so they had many gods. Some of the big heavy hitters, we have El, who is the supreme god. Ashral, who is El's consort. She was a mother goddess. Fertility and the sea. We have Baal, who was the god of storms and weather. He was the most active and the most worshipped, which I found very interesting. He's the most worshipped, but he's not the main guy, right? El is still seen as the creator and like the head of the pantheon, but Baal was the one who was most, which does make sense because they were agricultural based, thing.
He was probably
Weather's
more
a big important
appropriate
part to it.
or more approachable.
Yeah. Then we have Anat, who was Baal's very violent sister. Very violent to the point where she was the goddess of war and love.
Sounds a bit like Freya.
And that's kind of the nice side to it. Other places didn't refer to her as the goddess of love. They referred to her as the goddess of sex.
Yeah.
So, and then we have Ma, and he was the god of death and the underworld. There's many, many, many more. The list goes on. These were the important names. These are the ones that pop up the most. Right? And there's also then a lot of minor gods. And what's interesting is we see gods being added to their religion as the years go on. So in 1200 BCE, a whole nother list of minor gods is added to it. We're only going to talk about one of them because one of them is the only thing that's pertinent to
This discussion.
And that is Yahweh. This is the first historical time we see the God of Abraham. So Yahweh was a weather god, a god of storms, and a god of war. His consort was also Ashral.
Ashral getting around.
Mm-hmm.
Get it, queen.
Now, he did have one other suggested consort, and that's Lilith. There is this whole thing, and our friend Erica, you'll probably remember her from last year. She was in on a couple.
She was at the Loki episode, the
Aska Witch. So she was just giving me so much amazing information. We're gonna have to do a whole
deep dive
podcast onto Lilith, right? And when she first asked me if I was going to include Lilith in this, I said no, because a lot of the information out there is very disingenuous to who Lilith originally was. Right? There's a big belief that Lilith is part of the Jewish faith, that she was Adam's first wife, created by God to be the first wife of Adam, but she stood up against the man and was banished for it and became the mother of demons. The very short, down and dirty version, okay? I know that story is more complicated, but that's the down and dirty version. Lilith is a Mesopotamian goddess. Her history dates way further back than the Jewish and Christian creation story. But there is still a crossover. There's a portion of mythology and lore, which is why we're not really going deep into this, because I said we're going to stay away from that, but this is kind of fascinating. So welcome to the next tangent, where Yahweh and a bunch of the Canaanite gods ended up taking a trip to Mesopotamia and hanging out with them and commingling and commixing, which is a possibility because, we've already mentioned that the Mesopotamian religion and the Egyptian religion really helped form
Kind of build each other, yeah.
right? So during this commingling and this meeting time and this hanging out vacation time, we see a potential connecting of Lilith and Yahweh. So while I'm never going to concede and say that she was created by Yahweh as Adam's first wife, I will concede she might have been Yahweh's second wife, or at least real good friends.
They close, y'all.
So, epic crossover episodes aside, there was another name for Yahweh that is still kind of tickled in there, and this is Elohim. What this really breaks down to, this is an ancient Hebrew word, and it points to the main God, which then eventually became the one God, the true God, right? So how did we go from a minor war, weather, and storm god to Elohim? Well, this is going to touch back into, like we were saying, that the Canaanite religion was very city-state oriented and loyal, right? So we start seeing the specific area and the specific group of people, being the ancient Israelites, started what they called Yahwehism. Yahwehism is a henotheism and a henotheistic practice, which henotheism is the worship of one God while accepting there's all these other gods out there. It is the exclusive worship of one God within like a polytheistic practice, right? So we actually kind of see that today still when you have modern pagans who are like, oh yeah, no, I totally believe in all of them, but I only work with or I only worship this.
Yeah, right? Or I specifically
am
working with this particular entity.
Yeah. So at that point, whether it's a permanent thing or just like a part-time thing, that person is practicing henotheism. And I love that word. I love that concept. I've never heard it before. It was really kind of cool to learn. So it started off as worshiping of the Canaanite religion and the pantheon. Then Yahweh comes around. Now they're henotheistic. And then each step as it goes through history, all the other gods of the pantheon start melting away until we are left with just one God. And that's where we're leaving it with the facts. So let's get in and let me tell you what I think is kind of the whole thing. And now this is where we're adding back in the spiritual beliefs, right? And that is the belief and the understanding that these gods are real and exist. If there's one thing we know about gods, and we can see this throughout history and throughout pantheons, I'm not saying this as a negative thing. They love to be worshipped.
It's kind of where they derive their
whole
force from.
Kind of their whole thing. You worship me, you get good this.
Yeah.
Whether it be good weather or good money, good cattle, good whatever. So what we have is we have a minor deity that is born halfway through a pantheon cycle. He comes up, and when Yahwehism started, it was, boom, he's top number one. And guess who become the minor gods?
Everybody.
The ones who don't really matter. Baal, Anat. El just kind of, they kind of explained away as, oh no, El and Yahweh are essentially the same person.
Yeah.
And then it kind of just, they merge throughout time and belief. So this God is created, and he's there for storms, weather, and war. But he has people who've been around for 1800 years already responsible for weather, storm, and war. So he has to make himself more important. To get his followers, he has to do things. So he goes and he finds, possibly while he's on his little cross episode, hanging out with Lilith in Mesopotamia, because that's where we know Abraham to be.
He picks the winningest side, the one he sees might.
Hey, buddy, if you worship me and worship me exclusively, I can give you all this. Sounds pretty good. And that's where the ball starts rolling. And as the numbers grow and as things grow, you don't need to worry about the rest of it. I'm the only one you need to worry about.
Yeah. They didn't do it for you. I did.
Exactly. And now as this population takes over, they conquer lands, they do all this kind of stuff. Now they're spreading their religion. All about Elohim. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, what we have is a young, jealous brat.
Who conquered the world? Pretty much. I mean,
with a backdoor deal with an old shepherd, causing the vast majority of history's problems.
Right. People always want to joke that it's like, oh, Greek mythology is, unfortunately, Odin was horny. Unfortunately, Loki was bored.
You mean Norse?
Well, sorry. Unfortunately, Zeus was horny.
Okay.
Unfortunately, Loki was bored. Like, we get these little jokes on, Reddit threads or what have you. Unfortunately, Elohim was.
Yeah.
Like,
and some of the things that you then look at that the Abrahamic faiths are not big fans of also make sense in this context, right? So they went through and eventually conquered so many pagan societies. Which were all nature-based.
Yeah.
Right? The Canaanite religion was an agricultural and a nature-based religion. He downgraded a not hardcore. First off, now we're downgrading women.
Yay, patriarchy.
Yay, patriarchy. But we also see where she was the goddess of sex. What are the Abrahamic faiths not big fans of? Promiscuity.
Getting it on.
Getting it on as often as much as you possibly can. Just having fun with it.
Sacred sex either.
Sacred sex.
Even when they have to have some kind of conception, it is looked down upon. Looking at like Solomon and Sheba.
Yeah.
Looking at the Mother Mary, like it is like Mother Mary's good. Why? Because she didn't have sex.
Yep.
She didn't have sex. She let God do it.
Exactly. So there's little bits and pieces when you look at it, and if you guys find this interesting, I encourage you to do your deep dive. It is hard to find websites that are credible, that are historical and archaeological based, and are not biblical. But they're out there. Believe me, there's so many notes that didn't make the cut on this. We're already much longer in than I thought this was going to take. Right? I was actually kind of worried we weren't going to have enough footage for, and that we're going to go through it too quickly. I scrapped a lot of information just to get this out. This is like the snowflake on the tip of the iceberg that sank the Titanic. So I encourage you to look more. We may revisit this, or at the very least, different parts of it in future episodes or future seasons.
To flesh out other synchronicities and things like that.
Yeah. So I encourage you dive deeper into it, because when you look at the historical side to it and you look at what the Abrahamic faiths are kind of based around and their likes and dislikes, boy, it really links in with the Canaanite pantheon and the whole aversion and turn the back to and making yourself the one true God from it. And in all honesty, I'm going to quasi apologize. I really don't like talking that bad on any God. And I've referenced him as a spoiled brat. Maybe that's the harsher way to put it. That might be my own deep-seated anti-Abrahamic faith because of what I've, experienced and
that
seen.
Might be your own religious trauma speaking.
My own religious trauma might be coming out a little bit on it. But it's there.
And I think a lot of people who listen to our podcast also have it.
Yes. So I think most of you are going to understand. So I think most of you aren't going to get too angry at this episode. And you know what? next time you have somebody that's wanting to be all hardcore, like, we're the one true religion, God created it all, blah, 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 you can now sit down and he'll say, well, actually, in 1200 BCE, Yahweh came into existence into the Canaan pantheon. You now have some
Committed adultery with Ashtaroth.
historical. Yeah. And of course, but we're going to explain that away
by making him an L.
by making him El the same thing.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Gonna force that monogamy on you also.
Do what I say, not as I do, humans.
It's essentially what it came down to. A lot of stuff. So I encourage you all to look into this a little bit more.
Yeah.
You know, if you have questions, if you think I missed something, or if you want clarification on something, please comment. Please ask the questions, or email it if you don't want to look. You know, if you're nervous about it being out there in the internet sphere, because this is probably one of my more fun episodes.
Yeah.
And just because the research side to it. Now, on that note, we're going to shift this over to Jess.
Toss the ball to me.
I'm tossing the ball to you. Let's hear some stories. Let's hear some allegory. Let's have fun.
We're going to fast forward a little bit.
All right.
So a lot of what I'm going to be discussing will be Jesus and post.
Okay.
Because a lot of what we have I'm going to be touching on some European pagan stories.
So let's also touch on the fact that Catholicism and Christianity itself is a triple god.
Yeah. It's a three-faced god. And most of the Bible is done in a Hellenic concept. Because the first writings we have from that region are things like the Iliad, the Odyssey. We have Greek plays. So they were using a language and a writing style that was appropriate for the audience they were seeking to speak to, because they all had experience with things like Greek literature or Greek theater. So, that being said, I'm going to go, this is the oldest thing I'm going to talk about. We have God appearing in Genesis 35:11 and announces himself to Jacob. English translates to, I am God Almighty. I'm going to fuck up saying this. The Septuagint.
Wow, that's a word.
Septaguint. Which is the Greek Old Testament. It literally translates to translation of the 70. So that is where we get Septuagint. It's the earliest translation of the Hebrew Old Testament. Renders the word for God into the Greek Zeus. So, and I don't speak millennial Greek, so I'm not going to try. But we see basically render to refer to a god as a title, there needs to be an article preceding it.
Okay.
So there would be like Zeus, lowercase z, would be their word for God. Where article, which looks like an O with a little thingy over it, followed by Zeus, would be capital G God. Roughly translating.
Okay.
So what we see in the I am God Almighty, we see the article before Zeus, the word for Zeus.
Okay.
So basically you see Genesis 35:11, if we're directly translating the Greek, and God said unto him, I am Zeus. In Job 21:20, we see his eyes shall see his destruction, and he shall drink of the wrath of Zeus.
So now in this aspect, we're talking like big Z Zeus or little Z Zeus?
Big Z Zeus.
Oh.
Now, I am putting an asterisk on this. Why? Because they may not have had a Greek word for Elohim, for Yahweh.
Okay.
So they already had a reference for a highest god, which was Zeus in their language. So they just replaced Zeus for Yahweh.
So essentially, we're looking at the potential, and I'm not going to say potential because we don't know which way it's actually going, for how the Romans would do it when they would conquer a new region.
Right.
They wouldn't explain to their people what the religion was. They would see, okay, this god is very similar to Hermes, so we're just going to call him Hermes.
Right.
This god is very similar to Athena, we're going to call her Athena, stuff like that. So they associated their god names onto other gods to get the idea past.
Right.
Which has led to the muddying and making people think, oh, well, this god is that god, and this god is that god.
Yeah. We also see, speaking of the Romans, we see the Romans making themselves immortal. We see the Romans, the emperors, making themselves divine, even posthumously. And they were given offerings, given burnt sacrifices. They were treated as gods, minor gods, but still gods.
See, it's possible.
So what we're seeing with this is an opening of the doorway for a divine man in the context of the time.
Okay.
So it also gives credence to Jesus needing to die to become divine.
Okay.
So we have this death and rebirth. Death and rebirth gods were very, very common. We have gods like Balder, Dionysus, Heracles. All of these people had a form.
Already in the 2 a day.
Yeah, they all have some walk through death and rebirth. We have Jesus raising people from the dead, parallels pagan divine healers like Asclepius, who was punished for raising the dead. Instead, now it's a gift from God. We can allow it to happen, but only in certain circumstances to prove God's existence.
Dagda and the staff?
Yeah, Dagda and the staff. We have stories of Zeus and Hermes descending, and this is not just Zeus and Hermes. We see this with Odin and Loki. We see this where two gods who are bored decide to take human form, walk amongst the people, and test their hospitality, test how they treat guest right, test how they behave.
Their Mythology Monday, and it's not one.
Yes. Did one on Asclepius, too. This is Sodom and Gomorrah. Sodom and Gomorrah was not punished because they were, getting it on. They were punished because when angels walked among them, they treated them horribly.
Yeah.
So they did not give hospitality. They did not give guest right to these strangers, and therefore they were punished. We see the same thing happen with Zeus and Hermes. They go house to house. Everybody turns away. Everybody treats them horribly. The only people who take them on are two poor people who are like, well, we don't have a lot, but what we have is yours. And so those two are blessed with minor deification. Whereas everybody else, they just fucking burned their houses down. They're like, all right, fine, fuck you. Boom.
Moral of the story, be kind to travelers.
Yeah. And this, do unto others. I mean,
the messages are the same when you, I'm sorry, but when you look at religions and pantheons across time, the messages are so fucking similar.
Right.
We all want to hate each other over it.
Immaculate Conception.
Zeus had one of those. He peed on someone.
Perseus was conceived by Danae, a virgin woman who was locked in a tower away from all possible male connection.
Is that where Rapunzel comes from?
Maybe.
I know it was her, the dad that locked her away, not some crazy stepmother type thing, but I wonder if that's where it comes from.
Could be.
But yeah, if I remember correctly, Zeus peed on the building and some of the
he came down in a rain of golden light.
Yeah.
And
golden shower.
Yeah, he gave her a golden shower, and boom, we have Perseus. Kind of sounds like, be not afraid. You're gonna have a baby.
Do not mind my image. I'm gonna scare the shit out of you. But it's okay, because God gave you a child.
Out of wedlock. And now you gotta go explain that to your fiancé.
Go tell your fiancé that you're not a whore. but you're still pregnant. Not that people who have sex out of wedlock are whores. That was just kind of the assumption at the times. I know.
There was a lot of like trying to conflate Balder and Jesus.
Yeah, this is the story where I was like, hey, why don't you do this for this type of episode? Because I want to know more.
Okay, so to understand how this conflation happened, you have to understand what skaldic poetry is.
Yeah.
So, in general, skaldic poetry does not call a god by a name. They get what's called a kenning or a heiti,
Okay.
which is usually like a phrase describing their function in the story. What we have about Balder being equated to Jesus comes from Snorri Sturluson, who is a post-Christian author.
Okay. Is he the one that was like made it his life's passion to
preserve skaldic?
Okay.
And so a lot of Norse pagans will be like, well, Snorri Sturluson was Christianized. I'm like, well, yeah, but it's all we fucking got. But also, he wasn't trying to write down the myths as a religious text. He was trying to preserve an art form, a literary form for future generations, using the context of Norse mythology.
Which, if I understand correctly, that writing style was to teach moral lessons through the stories of God.
Yes. So, for example, you would have somebody call Idun, she who works. You would have Loki, stirrer of stories. You would have Odin, the traveler. Depending on what their function was within the context of the story, would be what kenning or heiti you would use.
Technically referring to him as Old One Eye is not...
It's not disrespectful.
Okay, good.
So, we have, at the time, this is around 1300, we have Jesus being referred to as the White Christ. That was one of his epithets. We have Balder, one of Balder's kennings is the whitest Aesir.
Which is saying a lot coming from that region.
Yeah, right? Bro was pale.
He glowed in the dark.
Right? So apparently, Balder was phosphorescent. But they are both seen as innocent deities who died tragically, both prophesied to rise again and usher in an age of peace. Balder rises back up after Ragnarok and helps usher in a new era of the gods, along with those who survived. This parallel is exaggerated by Snorri in the Prose Edda in an attempt to make his writings, I believe, more acceptable to what is a rising Christian influence in his region. I think he also did a lot of stuff where he would be like, oh, well, no, the gods were from Troy, like they were Trojans or they were Spartans. Like he did a lot of stuff, stylistically speaking, to try to downplay who the Aesir were as far as their deification. He would just try to be like, oh, well, we thought they were gods, but really they were just some guys from Troy that were really good at what they did. Shit like that.
Okay. And we see that throughout. It's like, and even that time frame, 1300, current era, that's when you saw a lot of monks, essentially, who started writing down the story of the old gods.
Yeah.
It's also why we have things like, I can't remember which goddess it was, or if it was just a member of the Fae court, was told the good word of God and converted. Right? We see those added in the stories because these monks had to flavor it so that the Vatican and Rome wouldn't destroy their writing.
Right.
They had to put Christianity into it to make it okay for those stories to live. So, kind of fucked up, yes. Do we want to blame them for erasing a lot of pagan culture? Yeah. But they also were the ones that helped preserve it because it was never...
Like, we wouldn't have what we have today.
Yeah. We need to give the little bit of credit that's due.
It at least gives us a starting point to leap off and start looking through archaeological records and try to piece something together.
Yeah.
So, is it perfect? No, nothing is. And perfection is the enemy of progress. So, even if we had all the original ideas, all the original stories, all the original structures, it probably wouldn't make sense to a modern mind anyway. So we would still have to adapt it to what is accessible to us and what our brains can comprehend, because that is kind of how faith formation works.
Fair.
We are never going to fully understand the great beyond
God, no.
until we become a part of it.
Human brains will never comprehend.
So no matter what we do, we're always tweaking it so that we can comprehend as closely as possible. So I think there's also that. Going into some Celts, we have Lugh, also being viewed as an archetype Christ-like figure.
No.
With the son of a divine father and a mortal mother. He was good at everything he did.
Lugh didn't have a...
I'm just going by what this
No, I know. But no, so Lugh was not... He was the product of a member of the Tuatha Dé Danann being impregnated by a Fomorian. So, now his son, Cuchulainn...
Cuchulainn is another one that they bring in.
That is, Lugh was daddy, mommy was mortal.
Yeah.
So there's that, but...
Maybe they were mistaking the Fomorians for mortal.
They could be. There's also some, what I find very insulting thought structures, that the Tuatha Dé were mortals who became gods and not a divine race to begin with. So there's a lot of structure in it that could be. It's just like, I'm not surprised that Lugh is the one that's named in there, because he's
the bright, like, he's the bright god.
I was about to say the bright sun.
No, right. I was going to say like a sunny god, not a sun god.
Yeah, well, and that's what I was going to say. In more of the neo-paganism, he's associated as a sun god.
Yeah.
He's not. The Irish didn't approach it that way. A lot of the gods of this, god of that, is a modern...
It's a modern construct.
It's a modern construct. There are some things, so like, we'll take the Morrigan, for example. She's a sovereignty goddess. We know this because, they did it more in regional, so she actually like blessed
controlled this region.
Yeah, so she was for a while the one, not just not controlling, but when a new king would be crowned, she blessed
She had to be the one to.
Yeah, she blessed the coronation. Goddess of prophecy. That's because she gave prophecy to the rest of the gods, right? It was mentioning is more of acts that they do, right? Kind of like with the Norse, right?
Yeah.
So the traveler, the weaver of stories, the pale skinned one, whatever he said Balder was, right?
White ass bitch.
So but the association like we have with the Greeks, where Zeus is the god of lightning, right? Athena is the god of wisdom. Those were in that structure, and I think that structure eventually got forced into it, kind of in the incorporation of how we were saying that the Romans put things on, but also more of a modern thing. And I've never understood the only thing I can think of where people would think of Lugh as a sun god is during the Tain Bokulanya, when Lugh came and helped Cuchulainn and was like, hey, you go take a nap, I'll make myself look like you and keep the fight going. It made it, they painted it and made it sound like he like descended from the sky.
Yeah.
Right? So like with the sun backlighting him.
I also think a lot of it comes from because he was a master of arts. People who are familiar with Greco-Roman mythology, when you hear god of arts, you think Apollo. So they immediately start
the sun.
They immediately start associating Lugh with Apollo, and therefore, bam.
I can see that. I can see that. The thing, the funny thing is, like, yeah, Lugh was great at everything, right? And that was the whole reason why he was allowed to join the Tuatha, because even though he was sent off as a foster elsewhere, and when he finally
came in, a guy who can do it all.
Yeah, right. So and they're planning this war out against the Fomorians, and they're like, well, what are you good at? It's like I'm good at this. And they're like, yeah, we got a guy. Good at that. Yeah, no, we got a guy. This. got a guy. And at the end of listing everything, he goes, but do you have somebody that's good at all of that? And technically they did. The dad did. But the Dagda was off on his own mission, not at the castle at the time.
Dagda was off doing his own little thing.
So had Dagda been there,
probably using his giant club to make furrows.
Heyo. Had he been there, they would have looked at Lou and said, "Yeah,
this guy here." But they're like, "Actually, we don't have one right now."
Yeah. It was just a matter of timing. Otherwise, he would have been turned away. So
maybe he knew that though. He watched Dagda go off and was like, "Now's my chance."
It could be. It could be. And to me, I think Dagda came back. They're like, "Yo, this is the new king. He's great at everything." Oh, good, somebody else.
He's like, "Word, I'm gonna go out and plow some virgins now. See ya."
There's a story, and I want to say this was written by John O'Sullivan. I think it was written by him, or it's just included in his book of stories. And it was essentially like why the Dagda was late for the meeting. And it was, one day he had to stop to help a farmer plow the field. The next day he had to stop to fight off raiders and save some people. Another day was this.
Dagda over here completing side quests.
He's doing side quest after side quest. Side quest, and that was why he was late. And, even if that's not the true mythology, I love that story as it.
Right. So yeah, we see a lot of them trying to, and this is 100% the new, again, we have Elohim just kind of edging everybody out, trying to make himself the most important by drawing parallels and synchronicities to other regional practices and regional gods, and just being like, oh yeah, see, I got that guy. Just like Luke. Oh, do you have a guy who raises people from the dead? Got him. Got a guy who raises himself from the dead? Got him too. Water into wine. This dude can bring a party. So, like, I feel like a lot of these synchronicities we see were a conscious decision to just kind of edge out who they could and who they couldn't. They turned into, eventually, saints. We see that with Bridget. The Brige. She becomes Saint Bridget, who becomes, I believe, a saint of childbirth and motherhood, and
that always just amazed me, because when you look at Saint Bridget, she's a nun up in Kildare, and they're keeping the nuns now keep the fire going forward and all this stuff. But then there's also stories on how she was, essentially a nanny for baby Jesus.
Yeah.
But when you look at the official sainthood stuff, it's like hundreds of years later. Like they completely.
Oh yeah,
that's why she's lost.
Oh well, and then she became decanonized. Yeah,
they decanonized. I don't know if for those of you who don't know it, they've decanonized a whole bunch of saints based on they cannot find proper historical record to prove that they were living people. Right.
So this is an example of a god kind of being like
Saint Bridget is the perfect example. She was brought in because she was way too loved of a goddess. She was so ingrained in the people, they were refusing to let go of her. So they found a way.
They found a way.
Saint Nick is another one who got decanonized. He's no longer a saint.
They don't like the same color.
However, they have potentially found, this one might get reversed again, I think. Because they potentially found his burial.
Yeah, they didn't have a body or anything, so.
Ironically, do you know where they found this potential body of St. Nicholas? No. I forget the city. But it's in St. Nicholas's church. Like the main church of where he would have been dealing and doing all of his stuff. In like a grave underneath the building.
Jesus Hubert Christ.
Right where he would have been. Like literally the place where they would have started the search.
So nobody thought to start at the beginning?
Nope.
No, they
all jumped in like 3/4 of the way through the story.
I had another thought, and that was my foot hitting me down.
Oh, okay.
And now I got sidetracked. Right?
Sorry. Santa Claus sidetracked us, guys. It's his fault.
Yeah.
I've sidetracked us a lot of some moral stories today. Fat people are sidetracking.
I sidetracked a lot, too. I mean, we did go through that whole McMahon Saddam Hussein thing. But yeah, so again, we still see evidence today of Yahweh edging people out as much as he can. We do not worship gods the way that ancient people did anymore. So I have a feeling if he wants to keep getting parishioners, he's going to have to come up with some new tactics. But, maybe that's what AI is for.
Or just get good at old tactics. It's more people turn to the old, so we're going to have to go back to the old way of getting rid of them.
I did see a news story where Gen Z is turning back to the Catholic Church in bigger numbers than they've seen in years. So there's that.
Because Father McFeely got taken away. Not where my religious trauma comes from. Just throw that out there.
He honestly is very curious what was wrong with him that he was never.
That was a joke that my mom hated. And listen, I'm a Marine. I'm a chef. I live in dark humor. I was an altar boy for 9 years. The vast majority of the time, I think I had at least a year and a half to 2 years straight every single week having to serve because nobody else was there, right? So the joke was always like, I was an altar boy for 9 years. I wasn't touched once. What's wrong with me? The joke came a little too realistic when it ended up that our pastor growing up was on the list.
Oh, so what was wrong with you?
Hey, facts.
What was wrong with him?
A lot was wrong with him. He was, this is like stereotypical. His family was mob tied.
Yeah.
And he became the priest.
In bumfuck PA.
Yeah. Well, yeah. There's more ties to that than you would think in Central and Eastern PA.
Damn.
Yeah.
In
fact, if I remember correctly, one of the girls I went to school with, her dad was arrested and put in jail for quite some time for having his pizza shop be a front for the mob.
Cool.
Yeah. Not cool for them, but it was alright. It wasn't very bad.
I feel like if you're going to be a front for the mob, you better have good food.
At that time, I thought good pizza was Pizza Hut and Little Caesars, so what did I know? But yeah, so, it's really just kind of like that typical like you see in movies where it's like, oh yeah, the one son from the family gets sent off to the church. And, hey, I'll absolve you all from your sins and blah, 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 blah. And, and it came out after he died. But it was reported from somebody I think was like a grade older than me.
Oh, damn.
And Mom's like, well, he just doesn't seem like he'd be the type. I go, well, Mom, that's the key to being a predator.
Yeah.
No predator seems like they're the type. If they did, they wouldn't be doing what they do.
If you see the predator, you're dead.
Yeah. So, now, nothing else has ever come of it because, like I said, he had already passed away at the time, so it's not like they could
do anything legally.
And you know what? If it wasn't true, then hopefully he's enjoying his afterlife and is in heaven, happy, and all that kind of good stuff.
Because he was still absolving the fucking mob.
And if it was true, yeah, but that's still a priest thing. Like, you can advise people to go to the cops, but you still absolve the sins. So that's
it's
normal. They just
it's one of the weird caveats of the Catholic Church.
Yeah, I agree. But if it was real, oh boy, I hope he's getting raped in hell every 5 flipping seconds while he burns and is in agonizing pain. Sometimes people get the afterlife they deserve.
Yeah.
That's why I'm glad to find out there's multiple afterlives.
The afterlife you believe you deserve.
All right,
yeah. So on that very sunny note.
Sunshine, lollipop, something.
Yeah, whatever. Elohim, kind of a dickhead, wanted all the attention, and he has gotten it. So
He got what he wanted.
honestly,
still has it.
like, I gotta respect the hustle.
A little bit. You know, you go from little bro, if not like grandchild, like little youngin, to
No,
worshipped by the vast majority of people on planet Earth, and probably the most powerful deity that's ever deityed. And that is, where did God come from? Thank you guys so much for bearing with us.
Els Balzac?
Balzac, God. On the note of Els Balzac is where we're going to be ending this.
It's gonna come out in like 50 years that Ohim means Balzac.
So Elohim would be of Els Balzac.
Yep.
You know what? That's what it means to me from now on.
Yeah, that is now my headcanon, and I will not change.
Yes. Feel free to steal it, use it, all that good stuff. All right, guys. Thank you for bearing with us. Like I said, I had a blast on this one. I hope you guys did too. I hope we all have walked away from this learning something or knowing something. Again, if I pissed you off with anything that we went over today, let's talk. Elizabeth, engage, please. I'm begging you.
It's not gonna hurt our feelings because
I don't have feelings.
we don't have feelings about this, to be honest.
No. This was just a strict, wonderful walk down history.
Yeah.
So, all right, do me a favor, a huge, huge favor, and smash all those buttons like, share, subscribe, tell your buddy about us. Any questions, comments, concerns, or ideas, you can comment where you've watched or listened to the podcast. You can email us at The.Conclave.Podcast@gmail.com, or you can hit us up on Facebook or Instagram at the same thing, The.Conclave.Podcast.
If you'd like to go check out anything we have in offer at our shop, you can hit us up at themenagerie.pgh.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram at themenagerie.pgh, and our email address for the shop as well is also themenagerie.pgh@gmail.com.
If you haven't noticed, we like to keep things simple, and we reuse the same name over and over and over, so you can't say you can't find us.
Right.
In fact, I will say, if you do want to contact us over social media, do it over our shop page, the Menagerie PGH.
We tend to check that one a lot more frequently.
A lot more, and I actually have some weird thing with our Facebook for the Conclave. I don't even know what the heck it's going. It posts, so that's all that matters. But I can't do anything else with it other than have it post through the portal type thing. So, all right, guys. Next time we will be having another guest with us. He is an author. He has some pretty awesome ideas, and we're gonna pick his brain. We're gonna come along for the ride. We'll see you then.
It's on you now. You have the knowledge. Do with it as you will. Until next time, the conclave has concluded.